Okay, so what we're going to be doing is creating a little mechanical widget. I find one of the best ways to start out is kind of building these nondescript kind of mechanical widgets and learning the tools. Okay, so here's a top shot. Here's kind of a interior shot. Now what I've got here is this is also a spline that I've drawn. This was done in 3ds Max. This is a tutorial that I'm adapting for Maya 3ds Max. 3ds Max has, I build a lot from splines, and 3D Max is very powerful in building splines. Maya has issues a little bit with that because Maya splines are NURBS. And NURBS are great for creating NURBS surfaces, but not so much for creating polygonal surfaces for subdividing. So I'm going to adapt this to creating from a polygon instead of creating from a spline. Now this is the shape we're kind of wanting our polygon to be. Okay, so let's see if you can just follow along. By the way, this utility I'm using is called PureRef, and it's used in industry, and one of the advantages of it is it'll float over the top of anything, and so when you're modeling, it'll float over the top, which is really nice. All right, I'm just going to move this off screen for right now, though. All right, we're going to start off with creating a plane. Now I've got Maya set up where I can draw my planes out, whereas like if you wanted to create a sphere, then I have to actually create the sphere, which is the way that Max works. Maya is set up to default by when I click on a sphere, it's just going to drop a sphere out here. And I don't really like that creation method. So I'll show you how I changed it. I go to create polygon primitives, and right here, this interactive creation, when this is on, then I get control. So instead of just making a sphere and then it's controlled and then I have to manipulate it, I can actually come in here, and when I turn that on, then I can, I'd get to draw the sphere the size I want it. So Maya is a little bit adapted to that. Okay, so all right, so we're going to pick our plane here. So we have multiple tabs up here. We're in but you want to make sure you're in the modeling standard, not in the general, but you want to be in the modeling standard. And then what's going to happen here is I get the modeling toolkit that I need, and then I've also got my attribute editor. Now, the P plane here, this is not controlling the size of the plane or anything, but it's controlling its translation. So it's move, rotation, and scale in relationship to the world. Where these X crosses here, these dark X, this is 0, 0, 0. It's referred to as the origin, and usually that's where we want to model to. And so you can see here that when I created this, it's not at the origin. So my translation is move. So translation is move, rotate, and scale. Okay. In Maya, they call move translate. Okay. So I'm just going to zero this out and zero this out, and that'll ensure that my plane is in the center of my world. Okay. So. All right, I don't really need to see the grid. This is the button for the grid right here. I have it set to a speed key of G, which is what it is in 3ds Max. So I've kind of updated mine a little bit to have some kind of 3D Maxy a little bit. Okay. All right, so now we want to switch to the top. So all I'm doing is holding down the space bar, and then on the word Maya right here, I'm right clicking, and then I can switch which viewport I want to be in the top viewport. Now, I want to cover this because I see students doing this quite a bit. Okay, so on this view cube that's up here, I usually turn this off, and I see students using this all the time. It's really just a lazy way of not having to use your speed keys. Which is okay. I mean, instead of Alt, left mouse button to tumble, or Alt and the center mouse button to move, people are doing this. Okay. And they do this, because it's easy, but there's an inherent problem with this. And I run into a lot with students that they're of the illusion that if I click front, that I'm in the front view. Okay. Or if I click top, I'm in the top view. This is incorrect. When I switch to the top view, so if I hold down spacebar, right click top view, you'll see down here at the bottom it says top view. I'm going to turn the grid off. It says top view, so I'm in the top view. If I switch back to a perspective view, you'll see it says perspective view. Now if I click the top, you'll see it still says perspective view. So this is a top view of a perspective view. That's kind of dangerous because it means that I can still be moving things in three-dimensional space, whereas when I'm actually switching to a top view, I can't move things in a three-dimensional space. I can only move them left and right and up and down. So this can kind of be misleading to students, and so I kind of tell them to turn it off. Okay, so you just right-click on it and you go, you can click hide the view cube. Okay. Now, to get it back, you go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, go into your Preferences right here, and then here's the View Cube, and you can turn it back on. Okay. I would tell you, you're going to be using speed keys and stuff. We don't really need to see it, so you can just turn it off. All right, so we're in the top view here, looking down on this. And what I want to do is I've got to get it to look kind of like this shape here. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to Modeling Toolkit, and we're going to, by the way, just another speed key to know is F is to frame it. Okay, it's frame or fit is what some softwares call it into our frame here. All right, I'm going to do a multi-cut tool. Okay, but one of the cool things about a multi-cut tool is if you hold down the shift key on an edge, it will go right to the center. And that's what I want to do, is cut from the center here, center here. So I'm clicking and I'm cutting all the way around this and back. Okay, now you hit Q to stop the action. And really, I don't really need these edges. Okay, Maya's kind of funky that way. It's hard to just put a point on an edge without cutting it. So that's what we're doing. So now I don't need these edges. I can go ahead and just backspace them, because what I really needed for them was these vertices. I needed these vertices that we put in. So that's why we were cutting it, not to get the edges, but to get the vertices. So I'm going to take this vertex right here. I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to hit W on the keyboard for move, and I want to move this down, something like this. Okay, we're kind of making this kind of a shape here. Then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to hold down, I'm going to click this one. Now, you need to get in a habit of dragging to pick something. I have students that just click on it all the time. Well, for a 2D plane, that's okay. But a lot of times, this is three-dimensional, and I need to pick this vertex, and there'll be one behind it. So I would get in a habit of dragging boxes to pick your stuff. And then I'm going to pull these up. I don't really need these vertices anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and just backspace those out. And I'm trying to make it so we're getting kind of a three-dimensional cube look to this. And this looks pretty good. All right, so now what I'm trying to do is to designate these little points that are in here. Okay, these 3 points. Here, here, and here. So that's going to be this point, hold down the shift, and this one, and this one. And now I'm going to bevel these. And so, go 1, that's too small. Let's go to 2. I think that's a little small. Maybe 2.6, maybe. That's a little big. Maybe 2.4. Yeah, I like that. So hit enter, and Q will turn that off, and then I can delete these little corners. Okay, so I'm getting rid of this corner here, here, and here is what I'm making. So we can go ahead and go to Phase, pick this and delete it. Delete this one and delete this one. Okay, back to our vertices. So now what I'm trying to do is the length of this edge and this edge, and this one and this one and this and this, I'm trying to make them about the same. Seems like to me this needs to be moved up just maybe a hair a little bit, and now this is looking more the same. So I'm going to go ahead and pick these 2 points, and I'm going to do a bevel. And then what I'm trying to do is I want this length, and that length to be the same. You'll see these are bigger than this now. Let's try maybe a 3.5. Okay, so now this, and this are very close to being the same length. They don't have to be perfectly be the same length, but that's kind of what we're shooting for. So that 3.5 seems to work. So Q, and then go to face, and then I can delete these 2 faces. And then I'm going to go back to vertex, and I'm going to do the same to this. So I'm going to bevel it, and I'm trying to make these 3 all the same. Let's see if my 3.5 will work on this too. Yeah, see how this, and that all look about the same. That looks good. So we'll go ahead and hit enter. And so that looks pretty close to what I got. Okay, pretty close. We may alter it some later, but it's pretty close. All right, so now what we want to do is we need to bevel this. Now there's 2 ways to do this. I can go to face, I can click on here, I can hit 3 on the keyboard to do my scale, and I can hold down the shift key and I can scale this in to get my ring around it. Okay, that's one way. Okay, another way is to use your bevel tool here, and this bevel tool on your actually not the bevel tool, that's not what I want to use. I want to use the extrude tool, not bevel tool, sorry. Okay, so we're going to do the extrude and then the offset. Okay, and I can click my center mouse button right in here, and I'm going to do an offset to the inside, and I can type in I think that's a little skinny. I don't know, maybe that's about right. Maybe 1. I think I'm going to go with 1. Okay, we'll enter that. Okay, hit Q. Oops. And now what I want to do is delete this. So make sure you're in your face mode. Pick this and delete it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's kind of a bug in Maya that when I extruded this in, it also put one on the back, which I didn't want. I just wanted it on the front, but it puts one on the back. So go ahead and delete it again. And now I've got this shape that I want. And I may decide to maybe pick this poly and this poly and maybe do a scale. Just pull these in a little bit so it's a little bit more of a triangular kind of shape. Maybe something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Pretty close to this. They don't have to be exactly all the same. We're kind of eyeballing it. Okay, now the next thing I got to do is put these circles in here. And there are several ways this can be done. You can Boolean these is one way. I'm going to do it a different way, but it could be Boolean. All right, so what I'm going to do is go to my multi-cut tool, and the first thing I need is to put a ring in here. So I'm going to hold down my control key to put a ring. Now, like I showed you before, you can hold down the shift key and it snaps at increments of 10 degrees. I want it right down the center, which is 50 degrees. And so if you look on my cursor, right where my cursor is, you'll see it says 50 degrees and click. So I know it's right down the middle. And then I'm going to do the same this way. So I want this to be 50%, here 50%, and there 50%. Okay, hit Q, stop that. All right, let's go ahead and zoom in to this area here, and I'll show you a little trick of how to do this through doing a bevel, okay? So matter of fact, I can do all of these at the same time. So if I switch to vertex, I'm going to pick this center vertex right here. I'm going to hold down the shift and pick this one and this one, and I can do all these holes at the same time, even though I'm going to just focus right here on this. So now that I've got this picked, I can do a bevel, and it's going to bevel this vertex. And then I determine how far. Now, I don't want to get it this big because I'm going to convert this to a square, and it's going to clip the edges, and I don't want it to clip the edges. So let's make this smaller. Let's see, maybe 0.6. That'll probably work. 0.6 is probably fine. So hit enter and then Q to turn that off. And it did the same on these other ones too. So now what I need to do is I need these to be perfect squares. So we're just going to go to face. I'm going to pick this one, hold down the shift, pick this one and this one. I can do them all at the same time. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here under mesh, under edit mesh, and I'm going to go circularize right here. And that's going to make it into a perfect circle, which since it's only got 4 sides is a square. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a multi-cut, and I'm going to hold down the control key and the shift. So I'm going right down the center, and then I want one down the center here. So I have an X in here. Once I have that, I can hit Q to stop. I go to edge, and then I double click this edge, hold down the shift and double click this edge and hit backspace, and it's going to take those out. And you're going, well, okay, why am I doing that? Well, here's why I'm doing it, because now it has those vertices in there. So now it's 8-sided. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now if I go to face and I pick it and I tell it to do a circularize, it's going to be into a circle, and then I can delete that. Okay. Now I'm going to do a multi-cut, and now I need to cut this to here. Right click to stop, 2 quads, here to here, right click to stop, here to here, right click to stop, and here to there, right click to stop. All right, then I'm going to hit my Q, turn my cut off. Now I'm going to test it by hitting F3. And if it's a perfect circle, then you're good. Sometimes it won't be a perfect circle because when I cut it, I cut off a little bit, and you might need to do a target weld. But that works pretty good. So now I need to go ahead and do this on these other ones. And so, same thing, multi-cut, shift, control, there's 50, there's 50, okay, then pick edges, get off of the cut, double click, hold down the shift, double click, backspace, go to face, pick this face, edit mesh, circularize, and delete. Multi-cut from here to there, right click to stop, from here to there, right click to set that in. You have to right click in between here, otherwise it wants to keep the cut going as around our shape, and we don't want that. Okay, double check this, that looks good. All right, let's go down to the bottom. Okay, multi-cut, control shift, right in the center there, right in the center there, and Q, edge, double click, shift, double click, backspace, right click, face, here, mesh, circularize, delete, multi-cut, here to there, right click, there to there, right click. So we're turning all these into quads. As a matter of fact, I'm going to intentionally cut one of these off so you can see what it's like. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to cut off of this one like there. And I'm doing that on purpose because sometimes you actually do that when you're cutting. You should always kind of zoom in closer, you can see what's going on. But I'm going to show you, so now when I hit F3, you're going to see you're going to get this funky little point there. Okay, there's a couple of ways to deal with that. Sometimes you're dealing with it, and when you zoom in, it looks like it's perfectly on there. Okay, So in that case, when you go to your vertices, you can pick them, and you're going to go to, let's see, you're going to go to, it's under mesh. I want to do merge right here, and that would merge those together. Okay, now I don't want to merge this together because now it made this side separate from that side, or different lengths, which I don't want. The one that's out of order is here. So if I can see them, okay, then I want to do a target weld where I just drag this one to that one and weld it together. But if you're getting that little funkiness and they looks like there's one, then that's where you do the merge. Okay, there we go. All right, got our holes in there. Now, these have a little flat spot on them. So what I would do is pick this, hold down the shift, pick this one, and hold down the shift and pick this one. Now let's do a scale. Why is it scale not in the center? It should be shift, grab, shift, grab. All right, and then I scale it out a little bit, and it'll pull those out so that they have a little bit more of a point to them, because otherwise they kind of have a dip in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, let's go into a 3D view now. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to give it some depth now. So I'm going to go to Edge. And I'm hitting Q, so I'm not in any kind of a move or rotation. And I'm going to double click here, hold down the shift, double click here, and then I need to do the same on the insides of these. So shift, double click. So all these open borders, we want to do that. And so now we can go to the move, hold down the shift key, and drag down to give this some height. All right, so F3. And we've got a nice kind of smooth shape. We want to put some locking loops in to crisp the corners up, to crisp these edges up a little bit. So you can probably get by with just loops on the outsides if we get them pretty tight. So you want to kind of zoom in here. So Control and then the Shift and put it at 10%. And that'll get it pretty close. We need one on the inside. And then we'll need these also in here too. Control Shift, 10%. Control Shift, 10%. Okay, so now you've got those locking loops, and that'll hold this shape pretty well. So object mode, and see, we got a nice kind of sharp edge to that. Looks pretty nice. Okay, it's almost like we knew what we were doing. Not exactly, but close, close, close. Okay, let's turn it. We don't want it round, smooth anymore. All right, so we're going to go back to Edge, and what I want to do is double click the center, and then I'm going to pull this in. We're going to be creating this piece in here, so we've got this pretty much done. We'll do the bottom here after a while. So we're going to pull this in, and then we're going to go up and then up like this. So we do the scale. So you pick those edges and then hit R, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then click this center, and then you want to drag to the left. Now, a lot of people are having problems because they're dragging up and down. It's dragging left and right is what we're doing here. So we're making a little lip inside of there. Okay, this little dip area in here. Okay, like so. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it in a little bit further, and then we're going to switch to the top view. And what we need this is to be a perfect circle now. So with that edge picked, we're going to go back to do a circularize. Now it's going to twist some here. Okay, so we want to go to E, so we have a rotation. And can you see how that's kind of twisted? So we want to just kind of straighten it up as much as possible. It's still going to have some trapezoids, but it's okay. Then that looks pretty good. All right, let's swing back to our perspective view. And now we're going to hit W to move, and I'm holding down the Shift key, and we're going to move this up. And what we're doing is making this little rise right here. So once we have that, then I'm going to, I still need that edge selected, and then I'm going to do a scale, and then I'm going to scale it in a little bit like so. And then from there, I'm going to move it up. So W, hold down the Shift and move up. And that's going to give us our shaft here. So we just made this little piece and then a slope here and then that. Okay. Now, eventually we're going to be subdividing all this. So this is all going to turn, really rounded on me. So I want to put some locking loops in here. I actually hit 4 on the keyboard, which is wireframe mode. So go back to 4 and I want my wire on here. Okay, so we want to put locking loops on the inside of this like we did on the outside here. Okay, now we already put locking loops on this, but we need locking loops object, okay, multi-cut, and then I'm holding down the control key, and I need a locking loop in there, one down here, we need one, let's rotate around, so we need one here, here. Now this one I'm going to make them a little bit further apart, so it's going to round this a little bit more. The closer these are together, the tighter the curve will be. The further apart, the softer it will be. And then that's going to hold my shape pretty well. So I'm getting pretty close. Looking pretty nice. Woohoo! We have to jump for joy sometimes. Okay, let's go back to edge, double click this edge. We're going to do R. We're going to scale it in, hold down the Shift, drag the mouse to the left. Something like that. Let's go R. I'm sorry, not R, but W. Hold down the Shift and drag it down. We don't need to go all, let's go pretty far down. We'll adjust it. So it's way down here. We'll adjust that here in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and put our locking loops up here. So multi-cut, hold down the Shift key. I'm sorry, not Shift, but Control key. And put this pretty tight up here and pretty tight in there. That'll hold that edge pretty good. Okay, then we want to go down below and deal with this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to mirror this so that the top and the bottom mirror together, and it'll put our bottom in here. So what we're going to do is be in the object mode, and then we're going to go to so we're going to go to our, what are we going to do? It's under edit mesh. Or is it under mesh? Which one's under mesh? Here it is. Mirror, and you want to click the settings here so we know which way it's mirroring. And I got to pick my object or it won't know what to mirror. Okay, so you have coordinates here that's world or object. Okay, the world's going to use the origin. Object's going to use the pivot point of the object. For us, what we're doing, because we're building it at the origin, we'll say world. Then you have which axis. Okay, Max is using, or Maya is using Y up, so it'll be on the Y. So you can apply that. And now you can drag this up and down. And the thing that we're doing here is making sure that we don't get this where we're clipping and we're losing part of a piece here. So we want to go right there. Okay, and let's apply that. Oops. Just close it. And now, personally, I think that's, I'm going to pull this top in here a little bit up higher because I think this is a little bit thick. So let's undo that. And what I'm going to do is go to face here, hold down the shift and double click. That'll pick those faces all the way around. And then I need to grow this selection. Okay, so if you hold down the shift and you're using the right arrow on the keyboard, it'll grow the selection. And I want something about like that. So it's getting these and those. And so now I can pull this up a little bit so that this is a little bit thinner right here. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so now let's go back and do our mirror again. Pull it down right there, and then this is a little bit thinner here. So that looks good. Let's set that in, hit enter, and Q. All right, so now I need to get rid of this piece here, okay? So what we're going to do is go to faces, and I can just drag a box around this, and then I can do that same thing to grow this selection. So I'm going to go shift, right arrow, up a couple. Now I got to make sure I'm not, see, I'm grabbing this in here. So I got to go back, shift back arrow, and it's going to deselect. There we go. But I want to delete that inside. So we'll go there and we'll say delete. Okay, so now I still have that lip on the inside. I still want to get rid of some more of this. So I'm going to do the same thing. Hold down to shift, double click, shift, right arrow to grow this selection up to there. And then let's delete that. Okay, so now the other thing I need to do is I've got to open up an edge in here because I want to bridge this to here. So what I want to do is pick this edge, or not edge, but this face, hold down the shift key, double click on this one, and it'll select that whole ring. I can delete that. I also don't need this one. I can delete that. Okay, don't go too far up because you'll start deleting part of this in here. And so now I can do a bridge in here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to edge, double click this edge, hold down the shift key and double click this outside edge. And then we're going to go over here and do a bridge, and it'll bridge across those. And that's what we want right there. Hit enter, Q to stop. And now if I smooth this, okay, it's going to kind of smooth and cut into itself. We need to put some locking loops in here. So we're going to put, let's put locking loop, let's say here and there. Okay, let's look at that. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh, looky there. We are rock and roll stars. We're getting that all done. Now, there's some excess geometry in here. I would tell us to rip out. So there's some geometry we don't need. And we're kind of looked at by the industry as being frugal with our polygons. So if I don't need this center edge right here. I need these locking loops, but I don't need this center one. This was put in here because we did the mirror and we want to rip it out. So double click on that. Be sure, hold down the control backspace. And then we want these on the inside here too. So on the inside of all these, there's an extra edge in here that we don't need. Control backspace. Okay, so now when we smooth it, we don't have that extra geometry in there. And there we go. We live happily ever after. And we are rock stars. And we are professional modelers. Yay. Okay. Be sure that you've been saving. And I've been bad. I haven't been saving. But you want to save in stages. So when you do your first save scene and you save this, calling it whatever you want. Okay. This is an exhaust reducer. And then you'll see up here it says exhaust reducer. And every time I'm doing, about every 15 minutes or so, you should be coming in here and going incremental save, and then it'll save it again with a new number. And then about every another 15 minutes, you're going to go up here again and say incremental save. And so it's going to save you in stages. That way, when and if this crashes and you have to, it freezes up or something, then you haven't lost everything you just lost since your last save. Okay, that's it. That's what we're doing here. We're going to stage it and light it and surface it next, but that's what you need to get done and have that all finished by the time you come in to our class next week. And then we're going to stage this and light it and render it and put some materials on it so it's kind of a metal look. And that's what we're going to do. Okay. Hopefully this helped you. Reach out to me if you have any questions. All right. Thank you very much.